After 1 o'clock, this is the midday view on eNCA DSTV channel 403. Now, Derek Chauvin has been found guilty of murdering George Floyd. The verdict comes after weeks of testimony, followed by 10 hours of deliberations by the jury. The former police officer will be sentenced in 2 months. Floyd's death sparked rights protests around the world. Journalist Anne Wenzel is joining us now with the latest from Connecticut in the U.S. And good afternoon, South African time. Good morning, your time there in the U.S. Just broadly first, I mean, we've seen some initial reaction, a lot of it, to this verdict. What's the latest? What's the latest sentiment following the verdict?
So the sentiment is basically that this is a beginning. This is a beginning. It's not the end, and it's definitely not even a solution. It is even the beginning towards a solution. You're talking about a country that has been focused on this particular case, but at the same time dealing with other cases. And by other cases, some of the other cases have come about as this case is happening. For example, we had Daunte Wright being shot during a traffic stop, basically halfway through the trial. And just 10 kilometers around the corner, 10 miles, around the corner from where the trial was taking place. So this is an ongoing issue within the country. Black Americans and people of color in this country live in a constant state of tension, anxiety, and even fear. I think we all have seen and heard and know about the conversation that parents have, black parents have with their teenage sons. And now you've probably noticed the killing of this black teenage girl that happened yesterday as the verdict was basically about to be read in Ohio, where a teenage black girl was shot and killed by a policeman who was called out to an altercation and got there and shot this girl. Now, I don't have all the other details around it, but it just struck me, again, we have a teenage black person, a girl in this instance. The police have been called out, so they are told there is an altercation. They get to the altercation and they shoot this young girl who apparently has a knife in her hand. So a lot of this also says, where is police training in all this? Because when we go back to George Floyd, for example, there were 4 police officers involved in total. One of them put his knee on George Floyd's neck, and that is Derek Chauvin, whose trial it was. But there were 4 of them involved, and one of them was a young black policeman who'd also just joined.
Okay, so this is like a significant verdict, and I just wonder what it means, as you said, because the issue of police violence, particularly against African Americans and the communities in the minority communities, is carrying on.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that you may not be aware of is that this year alone, to date, 30 people have been shot and killed by police. And over the last 4 years, the average has been something like 200 people per year. So it's an ongoing issue. People are talking about, so for example, there is the George Floyd bill that is yet to go to the Senate, where, for example, chokeholds will be barred and certain uses of force will be barred. But the problem is, and this is where there's this groundswell amongst the community, is that there's a mindset issue where people are, for example, for me as a South African, as a black South African, I think, Swart Gevraagd, are white police in this country so scared of black people, and why? That their first reaction is to go for a gun. And I say that also because they have, as the prosecution said, they have a toolkit of things that they could do. And the first thing they're supposed to do is they're supposed to use communication. They're supposed to talk first. But, for example, the Daunte Wright killing, the policewoman said she was going for her taser. So they have tasers. Why not use a taser instead of a gun?
Okay.
Oftentimes they have.
Yeah, so, and what should we expect next in this process? We're waiting for the sentencing, and I don't know how the process works in America, but here sometimes after a verdict in South Africa, you'll hear lawyers saying they're going to be appealing against the verdict. But what should we expect next in this particular case?
I think we could expect them to try to appeal. I mean, even Monday morning, Eric Nelson, the lawyer for the defense, was trying to get a mistrial call based on the fact that Republican Congresswoman Maxine Waters, the 82-year-old, very outspoken Black American Congresswoman, on Saturday said, you know, we need a verdict of guilty, guilty, guilty. And if we don't get a verdict of guilty, we must stay on the streets. We must agitate. So a lot of these words were then taken to say, look, she is basically saying that people must be violent if they don't get the verdict that they want. And he was saying, based on that, because this is going to influence how the jury decides. And so he was trying to call a mistrial. So that was just one of the things that he said, you know, in trying to call a mistrial. And the judge said, look, I'm not going to give you a mistrial, but the judge did say she has given you basically on a silver platter something to appeal on. So it's very clear that they are going to try, because they've been trying that from the beginning, to get a mistrial.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to wait and see. Yeah. And the family of George Floyd, of course, is expecting a very harsh sentence.
They are. The laws in the state say that for a first-time offender, which he is on this kind of charge, for a first-time offender, the maximum would be 12 and a half years. However, based on mitigating circumstances, which we are pretty sure that the prosecution is going to bring, they're going to try and push for the maximum, which would be 40 years.
Okay, thank you very much. That's journalist Anne Wenzel live to us this hour on the Midday View from Connecticut in the United States. Now,